Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
Hello, party people, and welcome to Minisode number 38 on the More Than Fitness podcast. Oh, I actually just got done doing a podcast with Josh Taylor, so my voice may be a little bit hoarse, maybe a little bit deeper this Minisode. And let me make sure my volume is good. There we go. Now I sound better. Carl, my cat, is eating currently, so if you hear any crunchy crunch noises, that would just be my beautiful son. Anyway, today's minisode is gonna be a good one. And a few minisodes back, I did one on like 6 ways to lose fat faster or something like that. But I figured on this minisode, I would kind of do it for the people who are hard gainers or they're just looking to bulk and gain muscle in the fastest rate as possible. So this minisode is going to be titled How to Gain Muscle as Fast as Possible. And I know this sounds clickbaity. However, the principles in here are like if I was trying to say, okay, if you came up and asked me, Matt, how do I gain muscle as fast as possible? This is what I would tell you. But I need to start this off as I would with basically anybody else. If you are a friend or you're a client or anybody, right? And the first question you have to ask yourself is, what trade-offs are you willing to accept? Whenever someone says how to gain muscle as fast as possible, I'm thinking someone who wants somewhat like bodybuilding type discipline, somebody who is willing to go to the extreme of the extremes to make sure that they do, in fact, gain muscle as fast as possible. So, with that being said, you have to understand that if you're trying to gain muscle as fast as possible, there's going to be other trade-offs in your life, relationships, eating out, drinking alcohol, getting to bed early, things like that, that are going to need to be taken care of so that you can, in fact, ensure that you're gaining muscle as fast as possible. And with that, whenever you've accepted that, you can continue. And this is how I would say to do it. First things first, as far as nutrition goes, a calorie surplus is going to be a must. You don't have to be, believe it or not, don't worry about what everybody else says. You don't have to be in a calorie surplus to gain muscle. However, if we're trying to gain muscle as fast as possible, you best believe it's going to be in your best interest to be in a calorie surplus. So this just means that you're eating more food than you're burning. And this allows your body plenty of nutrients and plenty of fuel sources to pull from so that it can use those nutrients to produce more muscle mass, right? So that means that tracking your calories and your macros is going to be a must if you're trying to build muscle the fastest, right? So being in a calorie surplus, making sure that your weight is going up is going to be 100% something that you need to monitor, right? So calorie surplus is going to be number one. And I kind of just got into it. The next thing is going to be your overall weight. For most of you, it's going to be indicative that if you are gaining weight on a regular basis, that there's a good chance that you're adding lean muscle mass, right? You're adding lean tissue. And for most of you, I would say a rate of about 2 to 4 pounds per month on average. So that comes to about 0.5 to a pound per week on average. That's going to be a good rate of weight gain for a lot of you. Maybe a little bit higher, actually. If you're trying to gain muscle as fast as possible, this doesn't mean gain the most muscle with the least amount of fat as possible. Because if you're trying to do that, if you're trying to be as lean as possible and gain the most muscle, it's just, they don't coincide together, right? Because whenever you have excess nutrients, whatever in a calorie surplus, you can't just say, okay, all of these calories have to go to muscle, or all of these calories are going to be combined both between muscle, fat, and other functions of the body, right? So actually, I would say to edge towards the 4 pounds per month, possibly 6 pounds per month to make sure that you are eking out every bit of muscle gain possible. But for most of you, I would say 4 to even, I'd say 8 pounds is going to be the upper end that I would say per month would be recommended, right? Okay, so calorie surplus, monitoring your weight, 4 to 8 pounds per month. That's going to be about ideal for that. I would also make sure, nutrition-wise, you never go to bed hungry. I think this is a huge one for a lot of people. They might be going, because you have to understand, going to bed or whenever you're asleep, you're basically fasting, right? Your body's going to go 6 to 8 hours, right, on average, without any nutrients at all to fuel that muscle mass. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should wake up in the middle of the night and eat food or eat a meal, because I think sleep is more important than that. However, making sure that you have a meal probably about an hour before bed or so, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how your digestion is, right? Because if it interferes with your sleep, then it's not a right move. But also, if you're even have an inkling of hunger before you go to bed, you're probably not making as much muscle gain as you could. With that also being said, I would also aim for about 4 to 5 meals per day. That's just going to be to make sure that you optimize muscle protein synthesis. Whenever your body makes muscle mass, this is the synthesis of that, right? And whenever you eat a bolus of protein, whenever you eat a certain amount of protein, your body triggers that, basically, to keep it in the simplest terms. And the max amount of times your body can do that per day, the research has shown about 4 to 5 times per day. So I would eat within about an hour within waking, and then try to eat every 3 to 5 hours after that until you go to bed. And I think that should suffice that. Protein. Consuming, so you've heard me on here say before, for most people, about 0.8 grams per pound is going to be enough for most of you. But there has been some research that has shown closer to a gram per pound of protein per pound of body weight is going to possibly eke out a little bit more gains. So if you're in the business of, okay, I just don't want to take any risks at all of not gaining as much muscle as possible, make sure that you take in about a gram per pound per body weight. I think that will do the trick. Okay, as far as, let's see, I think that knocked everything off with the nutrition. Also with supplements, I also have on here 5 grams of creatine monohydrate. Creatine's been proven to be safe and effective, and it's pretty cheap. So creatine monohydrate, that form of creatine, 5 grams per day. That's all you need. You don't need a load or anything like that. Take that every single day, and that will help with a few different things, but mostly your training, right? So take that. As far as supplements go, I think that's going to be your best bet. Okay, as far as training goes, I would say, again, same with nutrition. Tracking things is going to make sure that you are progressing and are doing what you need to do on a regular basis. So tracking your workouts and your progress each month in the form of your main lifts, making sure you're getting stronger over time. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance here, but in the simplest terms, tracking your workouts, getting stronger over time, and making sure that you're progressing month to month is going to ensure that you are, in fact, building muscle. Getting stronger in the 8 to 12 rep range on certain movements, that's typically a good indicator that you are building muscle. Let's see. What time are we at? Oh yeah, we're good. I'm ramping through this one, huh? Let's see. All right. Next. Yeah, so track your workouts each month, or track your workouts each time. Make sure that you're progressing on the main lifts, and progressing month to month whenever it comes to your strength. Oh, here we go. Sorry for that. A little brain fart and lag time. Train each body part 2 to 4 times per week. Now, this is going to be, this is going to depend on which muscle groups you're trying to grow the most. Obviously, if you're trying to grow everything pretty quickly, you're going to have to take more of a balanced approach with how you approach your training. But if you're trying to, say, build your arms as quickly as possible, upping the frequency, and so it's going to be, think of it as water in a cup or whatever, right? So you have all your muscle parts in a cup. And if you want to specialize your arms, right? You want to build your arms faster than your other muscles, you're going to have to take a little bit out of, say, like chest, for example. Take away some of the volume from chest. Or you could take a little bit of volume from all the other muscle groups, take a little bit of the water out of those, and then fill in a little bit more water in the arms section of this random cup with water, right? But basically there's only going to be so much volume and stimulus that your body is going to be able to take, right? So if you're going to increase the amount that you do for arms, you're going to have to balance that out by taking away a little bit from other areas of your body, maybe that you aren't trying to grow as much. So like legs, for example, right? That could be an easy example. If you're trying to grow your upper body a little bit more, just putting your legs, lowering the volume a little bit, allowing yourself to recover from the extra arm work or the extra shoulder work or chest work or back work or whatever. That's going to make sure that you balance everything out. And then later on, you can maybe have more of a leg specialization phase, right? Where you put legs in the forefront and you add more water in the legs part of that cup, right? And then you can decrease the amount that you do for your other body parts. And an easy way to do this is to simply train the body part more frequently. And whenever I say 2 to 4 times per week, I'm not saying like, because if I tell you to focus on your legs, right, and I tell you to do it 4 times per week, you're going to think that I'm crazy. Well, that's because you're thinking of going balls to the wall, doing squats or something 4 times a week, right? Or doing barbell squats or doing deadlifts or something 4 times a week. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying 4 hard workouts for that specific body part each week. What I'm saying is spreading the volume apart on multiple days so that you can have quality volume on each one of those days, right? Because if you do 4 sets of so let's say you have 16 sets of legs for the entire week, right? So if you had 4 days of lifting, and instead of doing, let's say 16 sets of legs on one day, right? Like in a typical bro split, where on let's say the 12th through 16th set on that singular day, whenever you're doing legs, the amount of work that you can do because it is going to be much less than if you spread it out over multiple days, right? Because if you do all 16 sets in one day, by the time you get to that 10th or 12th set, you're going to be pretty tired. So the subsequent sets are going to be affected. So it makes more sense. Like, what if you did 4 sets on Monday, 4 sets on Tuesday, 4 sets on Thursday, and 4 sets on Friday, right? You're going to be able to distribute that volume more evenly whenever you're fresher, and you're going to be able to give more attention to those lifts. The mind to muscle connection is going to be better. Your safety is going to be much better. Your overall volume that you could lift, you got to think even if you did leg extensions, for example, right? Your leg extensions, if you do 4 sets on Monday and then 4 sets on Tuesday, you're going to be much fresher on those whenever you spread it out like that, as opposed to doing leg extensions after you've already done 12 sets of legs, right? Does that make sense? To the people that I'm talking to on a microphone. But that's kind of what I'm getting here. Spreading out the volume, distributing it on multiple days, doing 4 to 8 sets or something like that per day to help you balance things out a little bit better, instead of trying to just crush them all on one day or even 2 days. If you make sure that your training is smart as far as the other body parts, where you decrease those, and also making sure that your recovery and other aspects, as far as your nutrition, your diet, your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, etc., those are taken care of, then you're going to be fine. And with that being said, the last thing is your sleep. Again, I know this is the thing that everybody stresses on, but it is still very, very important. And that's a topic for another day. But sleeping at least 7 hours a night is what the research has shown is going to be. Anything below that, you're going to start seeing detriments to your physique. So I would make sure that you're sleeping at least 7 hours of quality sleep per night. And that is going to be how you gain as much muscle as fast as possible. And then if you want to throw all that out and just take steroids, that's okay too. No, but seriously. Okay, quick recap. Calorie surplus, so tracking your calories and your macronutrients. That's going to be super important. 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per day. Train each body part 2 to 4 times per week. Never go to bed hungry, and aim for 4 to 5 meals per day. You want to make sure that you gain about 4 to 8-ish pounds per month. 8 being the mega high end, and you're probably going to add a little bit of fat with that as well. Next is going to be track your workouts and try to progress each month with your strength. Next is consume 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And lastly is going to be sleep at least 7 hours each night. And that, my friends, is how to gain muscle as fast as possible. And then, of course, steroids. Okay, that is it for Minisode number 38 on the More Than Fitness podcast. As always, thank you so much for listening and for watching. See ya.